Well, hello everyone, and welcome in. Welcome in once again to another awesome night here at the Six Screens. We're glad you're with us. We are in live time, and we expose the Jehovah's Witnesses. And I have to tell you, our program is growing exponentially. We are so happy to see all these people coming in and wanting to be with us on a Saturday night. Now, we've been doing this for 18 years. In January 26th of the coming months, we will be doing this for 19 years. And I am proud to tell you that I have never missed a Saturday night. Every Saturday night for going on 19 years, I have been here because you are here. This is very, very important for people leaving the Watchtower to be able to talk to one another. This is a community. This is the community where ex-Jehovah's Witnesses come to talk. And they've been doing it for going on 19 years. And we're so glad that our program is still up. Well, anyways, my name is Rick Farron, and I am coming to you from the apostate capital of the world, right up here in Boston, Massachusetts. And well, we got a good program for you tonight. And I want you to see something. We have a duck. We have a duck that comes down, and that's the duck right there. And we have a secret word. Now, we have two secret words tonight. If you say the secret word in one of the conversations we have when you call into the program, that duck will come down and give you $20. So that's something to bear in mind. So by all means, keep that in mind. I'm just going to mute some people here. We're going to keep you unmuted. And then what we'll do is when you're ready to speak up, we'll have you speak up. But right now, don't speak up until we really give the green light to do so. So anyways, we have been talking about Alive in 2005. Well, that's our convention that we're planning on putting together. Alive in 2025. Yes, now we know that ex-Jehovah's Witnesses would love to meet in a convention setting. I mean, you used to love to go to the convention to some degree when you wanted Jehovah's Witnesses to meet all your friends. Well, we're now putting together here on Six Screens, we're putting together a venue that will take place in the summer of 2025. And it'll either be in July or August. I've been consulting with few people here from the Six Screens Tele-Network. And it looks like it's going to be in July more than August. And we're looking forward to that, folks. So I want to kind of give you all a heads up on what's going on. Now, I have been looking at various convention centers around the nation, and I'm expecting upwards of 1,000 people. Now, I don't know for sure if 1,000 people are going to come, but I'm willing to stick my neck out and make a commitment, a monetary commitment to a convention center and let them know that I'm going to have a convention for former Jehovah's Witnesses. Now, this will give you time to save up your money. This will give you time to get all of the information you need to be able to come. Now, next week, I should know where it's going to be. Now, we have narrowed it down. It's either going to be in Massachusetts, in Boston, or it's going to be in Chicago. But we had a lot of people writing us, Los Angeles, Las Vegas, New Orleans, and some other parts too. I think one Missouri, I think one even in Tennessee. But we've got this narrowed down. It's either going to be in Chicago or Boston. It all depends on the logistics and how it can all be worked out. But it's going to be a wonderful thing. And what got me thinking about this was the protest in Washington, D.C. on October 31st, Halloween Day. And in that protest, what I witnessed is there was so many people when the protest ended. There was over 200 people that attended the protest. And when it was over, they were all hugging one another. They were giving each other's addresses and telephone numbers and how they could keep in touch with people. So that gave me the idea. You see, not everyone wants to go to a protest, and I can understand that. It's a little bit fuzzy around the edges. But people would like to come to a nice, friendly convention. So we are going to have Still Alive in 2025 convention coming up. I'll have more details. Now, if you think that you could come. I have to have an idea, friends, because I have to book a facility. I'm not going to hold you hostage on this, but if you really think that you're going to be able to come to this convention, could you please just write me? I know things can come up and things can go sour between now and then, but if you think you're going to make it, just let me know, and that'll give me an idea. So write me at jwworldnews@gmail.com and let me know, and I can now start making the arrangements. But next Saturday night, we should have the arena booked. We should tell you about the hotel rooms. I'm trying to keep the hotel rooms reasonable. It's expensive today for everything. The day of, $59 hotel rooms, that is not the way it is anymore. So I would say I'm trying to keep the hotel rooms in the $100 to $150 range. So that's what I'm trying to also work on. I want to make it affordable so you guys can come. I would love to meet all of you, and what a great time. We'll have some speakers come in. We'll have people telling their testimonies. It'll be a wonderful time. Right now, I'm planning on a 2-day convention. It'll be a Saturday and a Sunday. But we might even make it a 3-day. I'm not sure, but we'll be discussing that as we go further downstream. But anyways, I'm glad we can at least talk about it. And please write me if you have any desire at all. Just say, Rick, I really, because I want to make reservations. I mean, I'm just not going to charge you to come to the convention. There's no charge to come, but I have to reserve a seat for you. So it'll be a first come, first serve. I mean, it's even possible that we could have over 1,000 people. So it'll be first come, first serve. So the first people to get on this list, they'll be booked in, and they will be able to. Now, you don't have to. It's not a total commitment, but it's an idea that I can at least go on. All right, so let's see what's going on behind the curtains of the Watchtower. And there always is a lot going on as of late. You know that. I tell you that every week. And I get very excited. I really do. And I was telling Anne Marie earlier, as we were talking before her program came on, did you guys ever feel an adrenaline rush? When all of a sudden it's like, woof, you get this burst of energy? Well, that's how I felt today and yesterday. And I'm wondering, well, what is that? I think I know. I think I know why I'm getting these adrenaline rushes as of lately. It's not hot flashes. It's just nothing like that. Well, I'm getting these adrenaline rushes because, friends, we are witnessing the Watchtower losing the battle. We are witnessing the Watchtower in free fall, and how amazing that is. After doing this program for going on 19 years, I can sincerely and honestly tell you, I have never seen the Watchtower in this much trouble. Entire families are leaving. Did you know that? Yes, I'm getting reports coming into the 6 screens that entire families are leaving, and the Watchtower's reputation is going down the drain. They have a very tarnished image. They're trying to take the path of least resistance. That is, people who are tired and exhausted. They're kind of thinking how they're going to be able to do this. They want to kind of get away from it. So they're looking to take the path of least resistance. But not only families are leaving the Watchtower. We are seeing elders. Tons of elders are getting up and packing their bags. They have had enough. In fact, we talked about it here. These foreign language Kingdom Hall groups, remember that? Well, they start, they had a Chinese group, a Brazilian group, all of these different languages. They're mostly all down in the last 2 or 3 years. I mean, if this is a growing organization that the Watchtower keeps on telling the rank and file, oh, we're growing like crazy. Well, if you're growing like crazy, you wouldn't be shutting down these foreign language groups. You see, younger people today, younger people, they're not afraid at all to look at the internet sites, and they are going to fall in line with a lot of people who disagree with the Watchtower. They are willing to get in and check this. They're checking the 6 screens of the Watchtower. They're checking JW facts. They're checking this stuff. Now, as the older generation dies off, we know the younger Jehovah's Witnesses, they're not going to stay in this. Are you kidding me? What in goodness name's sake is in the Watchtower for a young kid? Zero, nothing. So we have been watching the process of collapse of the Watchtower for a number of years now. In fact, I'm even going to tell you, I'm going to go far back as even decades. We've been watching the Watchtower collapse. Now, I've been looking up information, going through some of the records, some of the annual reports, service reports that the Watchtower has been issuing for years. And from what I see, from what my research tells me, the organization has been crumbling. It's been collapsing since the late 1990s, and the pace of collapse has simply increased exponentially in the last 3 to 4 years. Did you know that? I think you do. I mean, I think you see it. You have to see it. The Watchtower is beginning to really see the writing on the wall. But I'm going to tell you when they first started seeing the writing on the wall. It was back in 1996. Well, you say, well, why 1996, Rick? I mean, why are you pointing to 1996 that the Watchtower started collapsing? Well, I'll tell you what happened in 1996. AOL went online. Do you know what I'm talking about? That's an internet platform where people could now communicate through the internet, the marvelous internet. And we always say the internet is the great equalizer. We all know that, right? So we know the Watchtower is tanking in a number of countries. But let's just start with Northern Europe. Do you know what's going on in Northern Europe? The Watchtower organization, they've got to be embarrassed. That they've got to really be looking, they got to have a sore stomach right now, believe me. Their religion in Northern Europe, particularly in the Scandinavian countries, it's pretty much dead over there. Yeah, that's right. The Jehovah's Witness organization is pretty much dead in Scandinavia. There's still meetings. The religion is still in existence, but there's very few people attending, mostly older people, and there's zero interest in the territories. Nobody's wanting to talk to the witnesses. Nobody even wants to see what they have to offer anymore. And in Finland, the numbers have decreased practically every year since the 1990s. So, I'm not just looking through rose-colored glasses. These are all statistics that are proving to be true. There are fewer and fewer young people, and the older ones some of them are leaving too for reasons. I mean, we have a lot of older people listening to the Six Queens Tele-Network, and they're leaving. Now, in Scandinavia, I got information just this week from people in Scandinavia, and they said that they could remember when there was 5,000 people at their convention. It's dropped off big time. There's only a few thousand now. So we see that the witnesses are having problems, not only there, but the witnesses are now beginning to understand that their days are numbered. And if you don't think so, I want to talk about Japan here just for a second. Japan can't stand the Watchtower organization, and they can't stand the Watchtower, the Jehovah's Witnesses either. Why would I even make a statement like that? I make that statement because Japan is ticked off at what's going on with the children of Jehovah's Witnesses in that country. Yes, as a matter of fact, news headlines all this week have been coming into me from Japan, into the Six Screens center here where we report the news, and sexual abuse is running rampant. Now, we know that. We know that sexual abuse has been running rampant in the organization for a number of years, but Japan is now catching up on these bums, and Japan is really disgusted It's humiliating to see that 159 Jehovah's Witnesses, young children, have been abused sexually. And also the country of Japan, another thing, and we'll get into it a little bit further in a while, but they're forced to read aloud sexual language at meetings. I think you'll know what I'm talking about. We'll bring that up in just a little bit. But all this week, I've been getting these reports coming into the sixth grades, all about what's going on in Japan. Numerous articles in the newspaper. It's just unbelievable. Former Jehovah's Witness members disclosed 218 cases of sexual abuse in the cult. We just read about 150 reports of it. Now it seems like there's even more. And we're talking about, well, one thing that caught my attention here, one of the articles, it was really Japan is very upset with the Jehovah's Witnesses on how they whip their children. They think the abuse is too much. They are calling what the witnesses do to their children as violent behavior. And it's all about mind control. They have the parents under such mind control that, you know, they have to beat this religion into their children. And that's exactly what's happening. So many people are coming forward as older ex-witnesses now and saying, hey, look, we have been beaten. And some of the stories that you read about people being beaten in the Watchtower, some of you guys are even listening in here today. Unbelievable. So I'm not going to read you all these stories, but I got at least 15 different headlines here from Japan, but you get the gist of it. There are many, many headlines coming forward. And, you know, one thing Japan, this really got my attention. Well, one thing that Japan is really upset about is the sexualizing toddlers for decades. It's messing their sexuality up. Now, just imagine, now, this is what Japan's concerned about. Imagine sitting at a meeting at the age of 3 or 4 years old, and the speaker is droning on about the evils of certain sex acts. Now, should there be young Jehovah's Witness children, 3, 4, 5, 6 years old, hearing a speaker talk about various sex acts, what is prohibited, what's not? A young child shouldn't have to hear that. Japan is upset with that. In fact, I don't know about you, but whenever, you know, I can remember even my own children. I had 5 little kids I used to bring to the Kingdom Hall. And sometimes, you know, they get into all kinds of discussions. It made me feel gross. It made me feel embarrassed to sit there and listen to this stuff. But then I look at my little kids and say, they're hearing this too. You know, but they say, well, it's God's view on sex and marriage on a Sunday morning. Really, I mean, they would even discuss it on Sunday morning when the whole congregation was there. Friends, this organization is seriously messed up. I'm going to underline that. Seriously messed up. Now, did you ever think children should not be hearing this? I thought many a times when I sat in the Kingdom Hall, they shouldn't be hearing hearing things about masturbation, giving your husband his due, sex outside the marriage. Really, when you stop and think about it, they shouldn't be hearing that. But the witness organization had no qualms. They had no reservations about talking about masturbation, sex acts, giving your husband his due. They had no qualms about that. And your little kids would be hearing about it. Very inappropriate. Now, can you imagine, and I've seen this, where young kids are actually given talks, sexually explicit material from the Bible. I mean, can you imagine a young 10-year-old kid getting the Bible reading assignment about Ohola and Oholabah? Do you remember that? Now, Oholabah is spoken about in Ezekiel 23, and this is a metaphor. But what it is these were sisters, Ohola and Oholabah, and they were whores. Yes, that's right. They were whores. They were cheating on their husband. And it's kind of ironic that a young child would ever have a talk like this. They were adulterous. It was a metaphor, but the whole thing. But they would have young children even give talks about that. Now, can you just think of a young little boy, maybe 7, 8, 10 years old, and Mommy, can you help me with this talk? I'm not understanding about Ohola and Oholaba. Could you please help me with this talk? I mean, can you just imagine that? And if you were a mother or a father, you would help your children write talks. And I thought some of these talks these children were being given, they were just, it wasn't necessary to give a child a talk about that. I remember once, I was a grown man, but they gave me a talk on masturbation. And it was embarrassing to say the least. Imagine getting up in front of 100 people and talking about that subject. And those little kids in the audience. Don't you think they would ask their Mommy and Daddy, what is that? What is a masturbation? I mean, can you imagine that? They have no scruples. This Watchtower organization does not give two hoots of beans about anybody. Just a thought. Hey, if you'd like to speak up, and say hello to me here tonight at JW World News, well, go ahead. Come in right now. Hit *6. You're on with us. Go ahead.
Yeah, Rick.
Yes.
Yeah, just a quick thought on the subject you're talking about. A child psychologist or psychologist will tell you that when your child comes up and asks you a question about sex, Daddy, Mommy, where did I come from? How did I get here? You just answer the question without any details. If they ask for more information, you give it to them. You give it to them as they ask for it. And you're right, the JWs jam it down their throats at a very inappropriate age. Thanks, Rick.
Well, thank you, Dick. Thank you.
Rick.
Yes, go ahead. You're on with us.
Yeah, my name is Will. I was calling about, they say that they're not inspired nor infallible. And yet they'll talk about they do the type of doctrine they'll vote on. How is it that the half that say yes and half that say no, the no ones, aren't they apostates?
Well, I guess they would be, right, when you think about it.
Yeah, right. I like that.
Yeah. Good.
It's just ridiculous, some of these things that they're doing. And then the Inside book talks about the apostasy, and see if I can get back to it. It says desertion, abandonment, or rebellion. So when they change the doctrine, aren't they deserting it?
Of course.
And then it's abandonment. And if they keep going, it should be rebellion. Well, how is it that the governing body has half of them are not removed every time they take a vote?
Well, Will, these see, how do you make sense out of nonsense? What you're saying is sensible. What you're saying is sensible, but
don't ever accuse me of that.
Yeah, well, really, at least you're picking up, at least you get your antenna up, Will. Hey, thank you, Will, for calling in. Thank you. Now, don't you be a stranger. You come back and visit us again, okay?
Have a good evening.
Thank you, Will. All right, let's go with, I think it's Shirley. Go ahead, yeah. Shirley. Yep.
You were talking about the sexual stuff they mentioned in the meetings. I'll never forget. I think it was around 1970, 71 when I was in junior high school. It was the Sunday meeting, the Watchtower, when they were discussing oral sex between married couples. Now, I was in junior high sitting next to my friend, 11 and 12 years old. So, of course, we were giggling. Now, think about the 4 or 5, the little precocious JW children, 4 or 5, 6 years old, hearing about oral sex. Why is the first time I learned of oral sex in the Kingdom Hall? Does that sound right?
That sounds right, Shirley. I've heard it numerous times. It's very, it would turn my ears pink. Never mind my little kids, when they started talking about that. There was no place for that. No place.
Right. And remember how I used to say to ask your children what you learned in the meeting? Can you imagine going home that Sunday night or Thursday afternoon and saying, "Oh, little Billy, what did you learn in the meeting today?" Can you imagine that? The little precocious JW child?
Shirley, what were they thinking? What were the Watchtower officials thinking to even have discussions like that? It's inappropriate.
Right, in the Watchtower too. But then remember, if you watch a TV show, certain words, your parents say, change the channel, don't watch that. We can't watch this movie, this TV show. But we're learning about first time. I'm learning oral sex, 11, 12 years old. Is where? In the Kingdom Hall.
Boy, that is disgusting. That really, really is, Shirley. Well, I'm sad you had to go through that. Geez, I'm sad you had to go through that. But many of us.
But just think of little kids. Just think of the 4 or 5-year-olds. Not me, the little ones.
Oh, right. Oh, right. But I mean, you were sitting there giggling. You were kind of getting it a little bit. But
But that's the age. But there are little kids in there. That's terrible.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Shirley. Thank you very much for chiming in. Okay, who else is on there with us? Is that Chewy? Go ahead, Chewy.
Yeah, there's a program. I was going to tell you about it last night, and I saw an advertisement of it, and I put it on my Twitter feed. But anyway, there's a program going on tomorrow. It's not. I know people on here sometimes don't like CNN, and I really don't watch it either. But every once in a while, they have a good program on, and they do tomorrow. It's about a kidnapping case in California, and I forget the name of the case, but it was a big case, and I was a young kid, and I don't remember it. But those kids were traumatized. And the kidnapping only lasted for 12 hours. It was a big thing, evidently, back in the 60s or back in the 70s. And they're going to get some psychiatrists on there to talk about how the government officials screwed up. And they said, the kids won't forget it. The kids won't forget it. It's not going to affect them. It's going to talk about that for about an hour. So I think it'll be good for us to watch it if you want to.
Wow, very good, Joey. Thank you very much for giving us that information. Okay, go ahead. You're on with us. It looks like 978. I think that's Dick. Go ahead, Dick.
Yeah, thank you, Rick. That's what it. Yeah, I just want to talk about voting in the Watchtower. The governing body votes, and the running staff vote, and all this voting. If the Holy Spirit was running it, as they claim, then you wouldn't need to vote. Everybody be on the same page all the time. So I just want to just throw that out there.
Yeah, well, no doubt. There's a myriad of things that the Watchtower doesn't have right, Dick. Well, thank you for checking in with us. We're seeing.
Yes, Rick.
Yes, go ahead.
Hi. Yeah, hi, Rick. It's Tim from Australia. Just quickly on a couple of your topics there. In your country, some of the culture wars at the moment regarding teaching sexualized content to children. Some of those book bans in primary schools in Florida have got to do with that very subject. And the argument is because it's sexualizing children at a young age. So the Christian community backlash is strong against that. So that's kind of to differentiate where the witnesses are coming from as to where actual Christian religions are coming from. Witnesses don't stand up against that type of a thing, and they are guilty of it. I remember I've had the same experience as a young kid learning a lot of stuff. I didn't even know the terms. So there's that. And then the other thing I just wanted to quickly touch on was the whole pedophilia in Japan. And, because you get a lot of new listeners, and a lot of people say their argument, because I've come across this, that pedophilia is in all organisations and churches, so it doesn't really incriminate the witnesses. But what they don't understand is the way that witnesses fight it and how they protect pedophiles through their policy. It's important that people know that witnesses, last year the governing body guy was saying we'll never change our mind on the 2-witness rule. And it's a cherry-picked Bible nonsense. Because if they followed the real Bible theme, they would not be making decisions on two witnesses for pedophilia, which is virtually impossible unless the person confesses. That's all I've got to say, Rick. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Tim. Always good to hear from Australia. Thank you very much, Tim, for calling in tonight and being with us right here on the Six Queens JW World News. One thing that's going on big time right now in the Jehovah's Witness religion is the merging of congregations. Now, we've been talking about it. We've been talking about it here for years, but as of late, there is so many congregations that are merging together. And some of the information coming forth from the witnesses, and they're asking, why is our congregation merging? Now, some people, I got some information today from a man in Switzerland, and he said that they just merged his congregation with another congregation that's 80 kilometers away. Now you say, well, wait a minute, how far is 80 kilometers? Friends, that's about 50 miles. So they shut his congregation down, and I'm sure they're going to sell the Kingdom Hall off, and they had him merge with another congregation 50 miles away. So now he's very disappointed. He is driving 320 kilometers a week. I'm just going to throw it out here. I could do some round figures here. That would be approximately about 225 miles a week he's traveling just to get to the Kingdom Hall. So when you stop and think about it, these merges, now how is it possible? Now, we've been discussing here in the 6 screens every Saturday night how the Watchtower says they're growing exponentially. More and more people are becoming Jehovah's Witnesses. How is that possible that they're growing when they're merging? That doesn't make any sense to me. In other words, if you're growing, you need as many congregations as you can get. You need as many Kingdom Halls as you can get. This idea of merging is a little confusing to me. So anyways, when the brother went to the elders, and this one particular brother, when he went to the elders and asked them, well, why are we merging? Why do we have to do this? I'm going to have to travel further now to go to another Kingdom Hall. So the answer that was given to him, now get a load of this. This is a screwy answer, to be honest with you. So the elder told him that we are merging the congregations so that the congregations can become stronger. Well, that is total baloney, because at one time they used to tell us when we had the book studies, do you guys remember that? When we had book studies, they used to say that little groups could be stronger and we could survive during the Great Tribulation by having little groups. Now they're changing their way of thinking. Now they're saying that congregations will be stronger because they're bigger. Geez, I mean, how many changes can the Watchtower make and get away with it? I don't see it. I mean, come on, folks, if you're listening in and you're an active witness, or you're moving yourself close to the exit door, come on, you've got to see that this is crazy stuff. You can't go along with their ways of teaching anymore when they flip-flop like that. So we're seeing poor attendance. That's the reason, that's the real reason why Jehovah's Witness Kingdom Halls congregations are merging. That's a real reason, and that's the real reason why they're selling off Kingdom Halls, because the attendance is very, very low. So I want to bring that to your attention. So this idea of merging, the newest thing on the block, the newest thing the Watchtower is saying, well, we're merging to make the congregation stronger. Jeez, I don't know how these guys can continue to lie and get away with it. They are unbelievable liars, but they seem to just go along with it. People believe it, and I guess as long as people are willing to believe their lies, they'll just keep lying. You stop and think about it. Well, I'll tell you, I came across another thing. You know, Jehovah's Witnesses, and we mention every week here on the 6 screen, JW World News, that every week we are getting articles from around the world that are exposing the problems in the Jehovah's Witness organization. But as of late, a lot of these problems that are being exposed are dealing with children in the organization. Now, all of us have been touched by the tentacles of the Watchtower, as we say. But when you have to stop and think about it, what about the children? I mean, they have severely been touched by the tentacles. So there was a program just this week in the United Kingdom, and it was a fantastic program. I watched part of it, a good part of it, on YouTube. And there's a former Jehovah's Witness. His name is Owen Morgan. Let me put Owen Morgan's picture up here just to give you a little idea as we're discussing this. It'll kind of help you realize and show you some real thoughts here that might help you come to grips with this more. Well, that man right there, that's Owen Morgan. He's an ex-Jehovah's Witness, and he appeared on a very popular program. It's called Cults to Consciousness Podcast. Don't you like that name? Cults to Consciousness. Yeah, I mean, you can be in a cult, but then you can wake up and become conscious once again. So Owen Morgan was on this podcast, and it was big, and well, it was big in the United Kingdom. And he claimed that being a Jehovah's Witness was oppressive and destructive when he was a young man. Well, I think you'll agree with that, right? In fact, being one of Jehovah's Witnesses as a young person is very oppressive and very destructive. And Owen said that kids within the religion were regularly shunned by their own families. Now, is Owen exaggerating? Are children, or were children shunned by their own families? Yeah, in many ways they were. Kind of like a different shunning, right? Especially when they, got to be in their late teens, not quite 18. I mean, the parents would kick them right out of the house. They wouldn't even speak with them. So I wanted to make that known that the witness organization is being exposed all over the world. And Owen, he lifts the lid on the brutal isolation he faced as a child, being cut off from the real world. And that's exactly what happens. You're a young teenage kid, you're 14, 15, 16. You don't want to believe this anymore. That this religion is driving you crazy. You can't even be a normal child. But yet Owen realizes that these children, even though they're young and still under their family's auspices or under their guardianship, they're being shunned by their own family because they want to stop believing in the Jehovah's Witness religion. So it was a great, great program, a great podcast. 73,000 views on that podcast. That's amazing. So, the word's getting out. The word is getting out, and how great it is to see more and more people are coming to grips with what goes on in this crazy, crazy religion. Well, you were on JW World News. That's the news the Watchtower doesn't want us talking about. But we talk about it here all the time, every Saturday night and every other Sunday. And we'll be talking about tomorrow. So anyways, that's a wonderful thing. Now, regional conventions, they're in full retreat mode right now. Yeah, the regional conventions. And I don't know if you saw it, was on JW.org this week. The locations of the 2024 conventions have been announced on JW.org. Now, remember, when you were a witness, we all look forward to the announcing of the conventions. Where is it going to be? Where are we going to go? Let's start planning now. Well, they got the conventions on JW.org this week. But I'm going to tell you, don't get too disappointed now if you're a witness listening in. The huge stadiums, like in Philadelphia, Veterans Stadium, Fenway Park, Yankee Stadium, there's no longer that. That doesn't exist anymore. And I got information from a person today from Pennsylvania, and he was saying that what it was he used to go to Veterans Stadium. I've been there myself in Philadelphia. And I remember right around I'd say 1980, when I went to Veterans Stadium, it was packed. There was 50,000 people there going to the convention. That's no longer the case, friends. They no longer have big conventions like that at Veterans Stadium, Philadelphia. Now what we have is, what they did is they took that Veterans Stadium convention and they moved it to Reading, Pennsylvania, a smaller town or city in Pennsylvania. And what they did is they had it at the Santander Civic Center. And they had 50,000 attending the Philadelphia convention at Veterans Stadium, but now they had the Santander convention, but it really wasn't as successful as they thought. At one time, though, they did bring in 5,000 or 6,000 attendees, In fact, if you went there, you'd even have a hard time finding a seat. But that's not the case. They're moving it now because there's not enough people coming. So now what's going on is a Watchtower in the last year, they're moving the convention from Reading, Pennsylvania. Now they stepped it down. They went from Veterans Stadium in Philadelphia. Then they moved it to Reading, Pennsylvania, to a civic center. And now for 2024, they are moving it to, of all places, Jehovah's Witness Assembly Hall. This is what seems to be happening, is they're taking these big convention arenas where they used to pack the stadium. Let me get this off here for you guys. Sorry that I kept that up so long, but let's see if we can't get that off right now. Yeah, okay. So anyways, what I'm thinking is they've taken these big arenas, these big convention arenas, and they've now have brought it down to just an assembly hall. Friends, I have to ask you, now I want you to put your thinking cap on. When you take conventions that were bringing in 50, 60,000 people, and you reduce it to a civic center from a large stadium, and you bring 5,000 or 6,000 people in, and now in 2024, you bring it to an assembly hall that might be able to accommodate 2,000, maybe 3,000. Friends, is that growth? Now stop and think about it. I just want you to wake up and smell the coffee. Is that growth? But the organization continually is telling the rank and file, oh, we are growing leaps and bounds. Do you believe it? I have a hard time with that. I just can't believe it. So now we see things are not like they used to be. Now, someone who grew up in the 1980s and even the early 1990s, and they attended some of these big time conventions like Veterans Stadium in Philadelphia, MetLife Stadium in New Jersey, and the Olympic Stadium in Montreal. You can all remember how big that was, and the people, the witnesses, was packed. But to see the witnesses being sent to the assembly hall for their convention, I mean, that would be a big letdown, wouldn't it? If you were still a Jehovah's Witness? I mean, come on. You used to, I mean, I never really enjoyed the convention, but it was kind of nice to get away, stay at a motel, meet with some of the brothers and sisters you haven't seen. I didn't really get too much into their talks, but it was nice to see the brothers and sisters. So this is a big letdown. From convention centers to civic centers, and now we're going to meet at the assembly hall. I mean, that just doesn't add up. Now, I'm not sure, and I'm going to ask you guys what you think. Now, they can spin it any way they want. The Watchtower can spin anything, and they're pretty good at it. But, I'm just thinking, why are they doing this? Could it be because these big, large convention centers are more exposed to apostate protesting? I mean, I'm a protester. I protested this summer along with some of our Six Screens people at a convention up here in Massachusetts. Could that be one of the reasons why they're not going for these big arenas any longer? Do you remember attending some of these big conventions? Oh, yeah. So I'm just wondering, could it be for security? Maybe in view of, what happened in India a month ago in a convention that was held there. Someone put a bomb in the Kingdom Hall in Germany, being, some sniper got in, shot some people up in there. So what do you think the reason is? Could it be because of the apostates protesting outside? Could it be because of security? Could it be because of money? It's costing too much money. Well, what do you think? I'd like to get your thoughts on it. What would you say? What is the reason the Jehovah's Witnesses are not renting out big facilities anymore? And there's also a fourth reason. Could it be because they don't have the attendance? So what do you think? Go ahead, call me up. Let me know. Give me your thoughts on it. Why don't Jehovah's Witnesses have big conventions anymore? Is it for security? Are they afraid about apostates showing up? Is it they don't have enough people coming? Is it money? Well, what is it? What's the reason? What is the reason? Hit *6 on your telephone pad. Let me know what you think. Don't be bad.
Hello, Mr. Farron.
Yes. What do you think, Ken?
Yeah. Well,
it could be a little of security and some other reason in there, but I think the primarily reason that they're not having these big conventions anymore is because of the attendance. Nobody's going to be going to do them anymore, and everything and so forth. And then nothing that they ever do, leads to any growth in the organization. If it grows, they're going to lose it. They're going to lose that growth just as fast. And then their merging of their Kingdom Halls shows that they're not gaining any momentum, because there's the old saying that bigger does not necessarily mean better. And I'm going to give you an example, although contrast. Many years ago in the 70s, there was a union up here that had small locals. And they had just about a local in every town. I don't know which one it was, but I'd have to look that up right now, but I do know the information behind it. They said they're going to merge the locals and everything like that, and they expected that one local would generate 1,000 members, but they would have just business agents, and they would save money and everything in the areas by not having all the officers there for each local and everything like that. Well, guess what? The union is still existing, but guess where the headquarters and the one local is now? It's in Green Bay, Wisconsin. So bigger does not mean better. And the Watchtower Society, I don't think, can expect to be, by what we've been hearing, and there's no reason to believe that it's inaccurate information, but what we've been hearing, they're not going to gain anytime soon. They're going to just be continually tanking.
Well, good comments, Ken. That's exactly what's going on. They are tanking, and I believe you're absolutely right. They're not having big conventions in stadiums or even civic centers because the people aren't going to be able to show up. There won't be enough people. 312, go ahead. You're on with us, 312. What do you have to say?
Hey, this is Stephen. I was also thinking that if they have it at a location that they own, it's going to be more money as opposed to renting. You have to pay for that facility, and then whatever's left is what would go to them. But if they have it at one of their own facilities, they can kind of optimize how much money they're going to be bringing in for that particular period.
All right, yeah, it could be a money thing too. I mean, the Watchtower doesn't share this information with me or anybody, but it could be a money thing. Maybe they're saying, hey, we can save some money. I know to rent out a stadium, I mean, for a weekend, you're talking, upwards of $20,000 plus. So, they can say, hey, we don't have to rent anything. But I know they made a deal.
Exactly.
They do make deals. I know at the Santander Civic Center in Reading, Pennsylvania, that the Watchtower, from what I have information coming to me, they said that what the Watchtower did with the Santander Center, where they had the meetings in Pennsylvania at the Civic Center, is the Watchtower made a deal with them that they would send their building people in and remodel parts of the Civic Center and build on whatever they needed, and they would trade it off for convention time. So I have heard that. So, it could be money. It could be money. I don't know, Stephen, but it's a good thought. I'm going to go with the numbers aren't there to support it. The numbers are not there to support it. I was protesting this year at the Lowell Convention Center up here in Massachusetts. And the convention center holds 6,000 people. But from what I gather, there was only about 4,000, maybe not even that. We had pictures of the seating was just empty. So it wasn't filled to capacity. So, something is not up right for the Watchtower. They are tanking like crazy. So I just wanted to bring that up tonight, folks. So maybe you guys remember some of the big conventions you went to when you were involved with the Watchtower. So let's see what else is going on here. I have to tell you that the organization is in massive decline. It's obvious. Now, before COVID, they were also starting to decline. But COVID was the great cult killer. They're trying to hide the dwindling numbers. They continue to try and hide it but it's getting downright impossible. It's getting very difficult for the Watchtower. How can you keep saying you're not dwindling in numbers? How can you keep saying that we are growing, but at the same time, you're shutting these large conventions down? And what would you think if you were still a witness? What would you think if just a few years ago you attended a convention of 50,000 people at a stadium, and now you go to an assembly hall and there's 2,000 people? I mean, what would you think? Would you think the organization's growing? I don't think you would. Go ahead, Dick. What do you have to say?
Yeah, just a quick thought. If the Jehovah's Witnesses are doing a trade-off, they're going to add an addition on to an assembly hall or whatever. That's bartering, and that's illegal. But it doesn't surprise me. The Watchtower is always doing things that is illegal and immoral. And I would say it must be difficult for a JW who's been in 20 or 30 years and remembers those conventions. We had 50, 60,000 people, and now you go into a convention and it's 4,000. There's no way that this organization is being blessed or is it growing. It's a cult, and the internet is exposed them, and Six Greens has exposed them, and others, and books and so forth, as being a lying cult. Thanks, Rick.
Well, you're welcome, Dick. Now, wouldn't it be nice, folks? Now, just think about this. Think about this for a second. Wouldn't it be nice if some official from the Watchtower would come on our program, would come on JW World News, and would certainly respect that person. I wouldn't in any way be fresh or nasty, but I would love to hear their way of thinking on this, going from a large stadium to a very small assembly hall. I would love to have an official from the Watchtower come on. Now, if they weren't hiding anything, if they were an honest organization, not being so fraudulent, in a heartbeat they would come on and say, "Now, Rick, you're really reading more into this than there is." But I've asked the Watchtower. I ask them all the time, if any officials ever want to come on this program, you can come on and speak with us. But I never get any takers. But if some governing body member or even a helper of the governing body or somebody would come on here and say, "Rick, I want to set the record straight here. We're doing this to save costs." That's all it is. It has nothing to do with us dwindling. Well, wouldn't you think that would be in their benefit to do that? It would really be in their benefit. But but I know I'm dreaming, Elaine. I know they're not going to show up and do that. But I think it would be in their best interest to show up and rebut it. Say, "No, come on, Rick." But I don't know. Maybe I am dreaming. Well, I don't know about you guys, but the circuit overseer in one particular congregation in South Africa, friends, I have to tell you, South Africa is tanking. Now, the witnesses have always held Africa as their last frontier. Oh, the witnesses is just coming in like crazy in Africa. That's not the case. There was just an assembly in South Africa, and the circuit overseer, he had some things to say that were quite nasty. And he was saying that there's a lot of Jehovah's Witnesses leaving, and COVID seems to be the reason. So he was kind of upset that many of these Jehovah's Witnesses are leaving in Africa. And I think it's fantastic. In fact, it's even funny that a Jehovah's Witness circuit overseer would even bring this up. I'm not quite sure why he would, but hold on one second, just to hold on. I'm going to mute you right now because I'll bring you in a second. Just hold on. Area code 630. So we'll bring 630 in just a minute. But I just wanted to say that the circuit overseer was really irritating the congregation, in the congregations that were attending the assembly. So he was more or less telling them that Jehovah's Witnesses are really leaving like crazy. I'm surprised that circuit overseer would even say that. And he was even mentioning that many witnesses are leaving because Jehovah's Witnesses have not really hit the mark when it comes to when Armageddon's coming. Then he even brought up 1975. Well, we all know how 1975 was, but he mentioned 1975. And what he said is that the organization did make 1975. Now they're coming out and saying it. See, they're now saying it. He did talk about 1975, and he said the governing body was so anxious that the system would end. They got overexcited, and they kind of suggested 1975. Isn't that interesting? That now the governing body, now the witness world is coming out and saying that, well, they mentioned 1975 because the governing body was overly excited and they were so anxious for the system to end. See, they got to keep spinning things. We know darn well they lied for so many years, but so many people are catching up on their lies that now they got to tell another lie. And I thought that was stupid of that circuit overseer to even bring it up. But I'll tell you what, they're always going to spin something. Dick, I know you have something to say about it. What do you say, Dick?
Yeah, really. That's all I ever heard of when I started studying the Bible. That 1975 was going to bring Armageddon. If the Holy Spirit was running that organization, there would be no mistake about it that Armageddon would come. But we all know that Jesus doesn't even know when Armageddon is going to come. So how is the governing body going to know? And if you look at the track record of Jehovah's Witnesses, their prophecies that failed, overlapping generations, the lies after lies after lies, why would you put any faith in them at all, especially when it comes to important things like blood transfusions and stuff like that? It's a sick, very, very sick cult. And the reason why they're not having 50,000 people at an assembly, because their lies have caught up with them. Thanks, Rick.
Well, very good, Dick. You know, I had you in mind. I was thinking of you when I was going over this story on this circuit overseer. Now, what they do, now listen, folks, you got to listen to this. What the Watchtower does is they try, I call it, they trial balloon things. So here in South Africa, they're seeing how they can get away with this, and if it works in South Africa, they'll have the rest of the world catch up on it. But the circuit overseer in South Africa is now even bringing attention to 1975 because they really can't get away from the fact that they suggested it. I mean, really. I'm just going to show you something here, right here, concerning 1975. Then we'll come back. And I came across a Watchtower in 1968. It was the August 15th Watchtower. And it says, why are you looking forward to 1975? Well, one thing is absolutely certain. Bible chronology reinforced the fulfilled Bible prophecy shows that the 6,000 years of man's existence will soon be up. Yes, within this generation. And it went on to say that, you know, that basically is it. In the Watchtower, how do they get away from that? I mean, they printed that in the Watchtower. So now, I mean, because people are catching up on them and many witnesses are beginning to say, hey, wait a minute. You said 1975. You got us to believe 1975. So now the circuit overseer in South Africa. So I'm telling you, it's like a trial balloon. They're just sending it out in South Africa to see how it's going to be accepted by the rank and file witness. So he goes on to say, now let me just spin back here a little bit. He says that the governing body, the reason why they came up with that idea in the first place of 1975 was the governing body was just overly excited and they were anxious for the system to end. And then many in the audience laughed when he talked about that 1975 era. And he said things like, I'm not going to get upset about a specific date. Oh, thank you. I mean, there were people that sold their homes. They moved to where the need was great. They went into poverty, brother, because you guys suggested it. And now you're saying that you're not going to get upset about a specific date. And he says, I don't care about the date. I care about my eternal life. Now, isn't that something? This Watchtower is sneaky. They are just absolutely sneaky on what they do. I mean, people, their whole lives would change. There's a man listening on here tonight. His life changed. Dick Boogie's life changed because of 1975. Dick, come on, tell us about it.
Yeah, I'm glad to, Rich. Thank you for inviting me on. In 1955, I was 7 years old, and my neighbor across the street was a U.S. Marine coming back from Korea. Tall, handsome guy, a lot of medals, sword, the whole bit. And when I was 7 years old, I swore that's what I wanted to be. I wanted to be a U.S. Marine and stay in the Marine Corps for as long as they'd let me. My sister started studying with the Jehovah's Witnesses in 1970, and she started telling me all about it. It was, I was stationed in Quonset Point, Rhode Island. It's Navy base. And I used to come home on and she just drilled me with Armageddon, 1975. So I had to make some changes. I had to get out of the Marine Corps, and that was my dream. When I was 20 years old, I had reached my dream. I was a Marine Corps sergeant. I had some medals. I had a sword. I had that uniform, and I loved being a Marine. But my sister said, you got to get out. You can't be in the military. When Armageddon comes, you will be killed. So I figured I already got through one war without a scratch. There's no way that I could get through another war without being killed, because if you're not a Jehovah's Witness, you will die at Armageddon. And I was doing a lot of things that guys my age were doing: immorality, drugs, drinking, all that stuff. So I cleaned that stuff up, which that was a good thing. But the girl I was dating, I was in love with her, pretty blonde. I picked her up to go to a Bible study, and she said, I'm not going to go study with the Bible anymore with Jehovah's Witnesses. Catholic priest came to the house and said that JWs were a cult, and they talked about Beth Serene and places like that. And I had tears in my eyes. I went to the Bible study without her, and the person I was studying with said, well, she's a beautiful woman now, but she won't be when the birds of the air come down and pick her eyeballs out, because she'll be dead in a couple of years, because Armageddon absolutely, definitely is going to come. And if you read the Truth book, it uses the word definitely. The definite start, 1914, and the definite end, 1975. They use that word definite all the way through that chapter in the Truth book. Well, it definitely did not happen, and everybody can attest to that. It changed my life. I wanted to spend 30 years in the Marine Corps, and I didn't. I wanted to marry Paula, and I didn't. And the one thing I did do, kind of against the JWs, in 76, I started college. And the only reason I started college was because it was paying the rent. I was going on the GI Bill. And the elders didn't like that at all, but it only made sense to them. I had a wife and kids, and that was extra money, and I needed it to get by. But yeah, the lie of 1975 changed my whole course of my life, and many others. I've heard of people that their lives have been just destroyed by this 1975 doctrine of belief. They sold their houses, went to where the need is great, and nothing happened. And that was also true in, I think it was 1919, when they were expecting Armageddon, and they were on the roof of Bethel with suitcases ready to be raptured, and that didn't happen. So often these prophecies that the JWs come up with, they're false. And the only reason why they actually do that is to keep people in the organization. Gee, I can't leave the organization. If I leave Jehovah's organization and the Armageddon comes, I'll be dead. And I want to live on a paradise earth. So that's kind of, I could go on for days with this, but the Watchtower is such a fraud. And you know what? Their lies are catching up with them, Rick. It's catching up.
Oh, well, Dick, isn't it really good, Dick? It is catching up. And when I was going over that 75 this week, I said Dick Borghi is one that's been really touched by that policy of that prediction of the Watchtower. But that circuit overseer in South Africa, he's sending up a trial balloon. Well, what they're saying now to the brothers in Africa is the governing body was overexcited. They wanted Armageddon to come so fast that they kind of brought that up. So now they're getting away from all of us ex-witnesses that were witnesses at the time were running ahead. They can't deny it. I mean, all of their print, I mean, it indicts them. I just read you something from an older Watchtower, 1968. So it indicts them. So basically what you have here is you have this circuit overseer in South Africa. He is now giving a pass to the governing body for some of the errors they made in the past.
Rick claims to be ex-Jehovah's
Well,
Witness.
yeah, well, hold on. Let's
Why
see.
did he want to
Who
murder
is
his wife
this?
by his
Who is this? Yeah.
They-
Yeah. So anyways, yeah,
Hey, Rick.
yes.
Holidays and Kathy.
I just wanted to mention something lighthearted.
Rick, you're a
about
chump.
19
I'm the best cult leader on the internet.
Hello. Can you still hear me, Rick?
I can hear you. Yeah, we get some people coming in. Yeah.
Okay. I wanted to say something lighthearted about 1975. I went into debt, $1 million into debt because of 1975, because the Watchtower had made it so sure that the end was going to be here at 1975 that I bet my schoolmate that the world would end before he went to college. So now I owe him $1 million. And,
Well, there you go, Larry. I mean, that cost you a lot of money. It really did. And there's many people listening to this program tonight that can say a similar thing. I mean, Watchtower really, you just heard from Dick Borghi. There you are. You were affected by it. But now they realize that, because their publications have kind of suggested that that was the case. And people, they can't hide it. So now they're coming out and saying, well, the governing body was so excited that they wanted to suggest that. That's a stupid, lame brain excuse. Go ahead, Chewy, you're on with us.
Sure, yeah. On my Twitter feed, Apostate Cowboy, that's my Twitter feed. If you scroll down, I've got a clip, a screenshot of my dad's Kingdom Ministry in the 1974, May 1974. It's got his signature on the front of it. If you see the piece, you'll see his signature on there. And it says right there on the second page, May 1974, May. Yeah. Second page in, says that we've heard reports of people selling their homes off. And, and what a fine thing it would be for us to finish out the short time we have remaining in this system of things. And that was dated 1974, May, and my brother stated it because he's got his signature on it. Thank you.
Well, very good, Chewy. Thank you for bringing it up to date on that. Go ahead, 732. We got 732. Go ahead, 732. You're on with us.
Yeah, hi. Yeah, I have a quick question. Is Larry still there? Larry, are you still there?
Larry, you still on with us? Okay, he's on with us. Go ahead, sister.
Yes, I was asking about his new show because I've been calling and there's nothing in there. When is his new show?
oh, I'll talk to you later. I'll send you a message on your Facebook, okay? On your messenger.
Okay, all right. All right, thank you. Please do. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. So we see how many people have been hurt by the Watchtower and their prediction of 1975. No doubt about it. And I have to tell you that now they're backpedaling. Now, why are they backpedaling? Why is the Watchtower now willing to come out, at least in South Africa? And I say it's like a trial balloon. They send little trial balloons out to see how it will be accepted. So they're doing this now in South Africa, and they're saying that the governing body, they kind of missed the mark on 1975, but now the circuit overseer is saying, well, it really doesn't matter because, all he was focused on the end of the system. So it's a little bit,
Yeah, Rick.
yes, what do you think?
Oh, hi, Rick. It's Tim again. Just quickly on that matter, it was in the last year or two, Jeffrey Jackson was talking about their mispredictions, and he was basically saying It's like a guard dog. He goes, it gets a bit excited. It yaps when it hears a noise. It's not always an intruder, so you're not going to get angry at it. But it just wants to do a good job, and eventually, it will catch the person. So, yeah, he's making light of that. That was his excuse. And then there's that recent Gage. I think it's Gage Flegel. Yeah, he was saying only within the last month or two, they don't owe anyone an apology for anything that they've said. So they're doubling down on it and just using excuses. Thanks, Dick.
Well, Steve, they know, I'll be right with you, Dick. They know that people are seeing the older publications. They can see it. It's plain English. It stands out like a sore thumb. They know people are seeing this. They got to do something. So now they're going to backtrack. They're going to come up with some crazy cockamamie excuse. Go ahead, Dick.
In the nation of Israel, if you prophesied in God's name and that prophecy did not come through, you'd be stoned to death. And the other thing about trial balloons, they did that. I remember you telling me that in the United Nations, they set up a trial balloon, I think it was in Texas, to see if people, if they admit to something, would the people leave? And few did, but most didn't, even though the Watchtower said if you even think about the United Nations, or have any part of it, you can be disfellowshipped. And here they are. There's an NGO, non-governmental organization, a governing body member on it, and they pledge to go along with the Watchtower doctrine. Well, they've always said that the United Nations was the counterfeit kingdom of God, and you have no part of it. So they're liars, they're hypocrites, and trial balloons. Yeah, there's a lot of them they sent over the years. Thanks, Rick.
Well, always good to hear from you, Dick. Now, here's the thing, folks. So I believe what they're doing right now is they are backpedaling. They know darn well that many Jehovah's Witnesses are reading some of these older publications, and they're nailing. They are convinced that the Watchtower said it. There's no ands, ifs, or buts about it. So now they got to kind of backtrack, and they got to kind of cover their butt a little bit. So they're coming out, at least in South Africa, and saying that, well, the governing body, never mind the people running ahead, they were saying the governing body was so excited that they wanted Armageddon to come, but that's why they said it. I mean, that's a stupid excuse. But now let me tell you why I think they're doing this. They are getting ready in January to talk about something that's going to be a big change in the Watchtower. You're going to call it New Light. Let's call it New Light. In January, there's an article that's going to be coming out. They haven't studied it yet, and I've been getting wind coming in here to the 6 screens. There's going to be some big changes in January. Now, let me tell you what's going to happen in January. They're going to come out with an article. It's New Light. That's what we're going to call it. They're going to say that they don't know who will be resurrected come the resurrection, and whether there will still be opportunity to come Jehovah's side during the Great Tribulation. Now, this is going to be new. Now, let me just slow down here and give you an idea what I'm talking about. For years, if you were one of Jehovah's Witnesses in good standing and you were following the orders of the Watchtower, well, you were kind of secure in thinking if you died in this system that you would come back in the resurrection. Isn't that true? Did you think that? I used to think it. I thought, well, if I die faithfully as one of Jehovah's Witnesses, I'll come back in the resurrection. Now, in January 2024, the Watchtower already has prepared some new light, and they're going to come out and say that they do not know who will be resurrected. Now, you say, well, wait a minute. What does that mean, Rick? Why would that be of concern to us here tonight? Well, this is another trick. This is another trick that the Watchtower is using to try to get people to come closer to the organization. In other words, if you hear the organization come out in January and say that they don't know who will be resurrected, now you'll say, well, geez, I was a good witness. And geez, I put my time into Jehovah. I wasn't immoral. I wasn't smoking cigarettes. I wasn't doing anything right. So this is another trick. That's the only way I can look at this when I put it under the microscope. This is a trick to get people to sharpen up and say, geez, I better become stronger. I better become stronger because now my organization isn't even willing to say who will come back in the resurrection. That must mean I have to be a better witness. Do you see what I'm talking about here, friends? That's what I think. Go ahead, Larry.
So
Yeah.
there's one aspect about that is they used to say that if somebody didn't accept the truth, didn't come into the organization and they died, they would have an opportunity for resurrection. So therefore, so by them saying this now, anyone that doesn't take the initiative to get baptized and be close to the organization that is not already there, so if they die, they're saying now that they don't know that they're going to be resurrected, whereas before they said they would be resurrected.
Well, that's good. Well, thank you for clarifying that, Larry. But you can see the organization is changing, and really they're doing things that I don't know whether the rank and file witness is going to be able to follow all of this. But I mean, half of them are asleep at the helm anyways, so we'll only have to see what happens. Thank you, Larry, for chiming in. But the Watchtower leaders, they know they are misleading people. But more importantly, the members should realize that they are being manipulated and deceived. And I am willing to go on the record to say right now that the members are beginning to see it. They are seeing that they are being manipulated. The members are seeing that they have been deceived and are continuing to be deceived. So I have to tell you, it's just unbelievable. Go ahead, 714. You're on with us, 714. What do you have to say?
Hi, Rick. It's Nadine.
Hi, Nadine.
Hi. I was going to say that at the annual meeting, the governing body, they talked that they said they are not inspired by God and that they make mistakes. So what I want to know is why do the Jehovah's Witnesses follow them if they say they are not inspired by God?
Well, Nadine, that is such a sensible question to ask. I thought about that many times too. Well, why are people following them blindly? If a person came out and said to you, I'm not sure of the direction I'm heading in, but please follow me, would you follow them? No. So good question.
No.
Good question, Nadine. I mean, you're on the ball. You're
Right.
Well,
They're telling people that they are not inspired. So why don't they listen? I don't understand that. If they would have said that years ago, because they didn't say that years ago, I would have thought, well, why am I listening to these guys if they come out and they say they are not inspired and that they make mistakes and they get things wrong and they have no need to apologize?
Well, I mean, I don't know what to tell you, Nadine. I mean, I wish there was a sensible answer, but there isn't.
My answer is it's kind of, first of all, they're dispensing salvation and they're men and only God can do that. If Christianity is your belief, then God and Jesus dispense salvation and not mortal men. And secondly, it's like Jehovah is a bad boyfriend. I will make a new phrase and call this spiritual pimping, because it's like some poor street girl trying to get the attention of a very wicked man. She can never do enough, then she'll do enough, and then he'll praise her. They're doing the same thing to the congregants. It's a kind of spiritual pimping. Let's keep them confused. Let's tell them one minute they have an afterlife and the next minute they don't. And it's a very manipulative, wicked thing.
Well, Pixie, I love your term, spiritual pimping. I'm going to steal that from you. I like that.
You may. You may.
That's a very, I like that. Good girl. Spiritual pimping.
Okay.
That's exactly what they're doing. Thank you, Pixie. Always good to hear from Pixie. Yes, thank you. All right. Well, I mean, what do you think? I mean, how can the Watchtower pull the wool? Nadine is right. Nadine is 100% right. How can they claim they're infallible, they claim they're not, really the honest to goodness people that you think they should be. How is it they can get all these people to just believe them? Man, I'm telling you, talk about brainwashing. Talk about a high control group. My goodness, these guys take the cake. Boy, I have to say this. Watchtower is going all out, and they are making a concerted effort more than ever before to get young children indoctrinated. And we've been discussing here for the last few weeks, young ones getting baptized. But I came across something today, and we'll play a little clip from it, that is just over the top to me. And I think you're going to get a kick out of the little clip that I've got here. And it's about two young boys. And it goes back a few years at the Watchtower, but they started a few years ago trying to indoctrinate the youth. Very, very important to get young ones, to get them connected to the Watchtower. And then these little young ones would be so proud to be witnesses, and their mother and father would pat them on the back. And they would be like, wow, we're really pleasing mom and dad, and Jehovah loves us. Well, I want to play you a little video. I mean, get your barf bags ready. I'll kind of play it. I'll kind of summarize what's going on in it. So let me share that right now. Let me just get this into our share screen so that you'll be able to see what I'm talking about here. Because, I mean, really, it's something else. And it has to do with two little boys talking to a governing body member. And well, you listen in, then I'll kind of skim through it a little bit. But let's share this right now because I want you to see this. This is disgusting what they're doing to little children. Watch this. These are cute little boys. I don't know. They can't be any more than, 9 or 10 years old. And they're talking to a governing body member. You'll hear it if you're on our 6 Screens video suite. You'll see if you're on Facebook. Listen in closely and see what you think.
Well, today we invited 2 young people to join us in our studio. This is Logan and this is Aiden. Thank you for coming.
Thanks for inviting us.
What did you think of that video?
I liked it that it showed a lot of families doing stuff that involves Jehovah.
Good.
One thing I noticed was they were all in a relaxed setting. It was not like busy city. They were at like the shore where they were talking about the Bible. And it was nice family time they were having.
Good observations, fellas. Now, 3 times in the chorus, it said, we need to set time aside for the most important things. Then it mentioned 3 important things. What were they?
Prayer, study, godly devotion.
That's it. Very good. Good things for all of us to remember, wouldn't you say? Well, now, my wife and I are in the same congregation with Logan and Aiden and their families, so I know what excellent meeting attenders they are. And what I really appreciate is that you participate in the meetings and you comment in your own words. That's very good and sets a nice example. Keep it up. Speaking of the meetings, how do you like the midweek meetings with all the videos that we see?
It gives a diversity. It's not always talks. It gives like a break in the meeting.
Yes.
The videos always are a great.
Well, just stop it right there for a second. Now, this is crazy. This is absolutely crazy. The Watchtower is making every attempt they can to indoctrinate these young little guys. And they're such cute little guys, aren't they? They're probably only 9, 10, maybe 11 the most. But here they are. They're talking about what they can do for Jehovah and what they're going to have to give up. I mean, the video is about, I think, 10 minutes long. I'm not going to play it all. I kind of summarize, I'll move forward and what have you. But there's something that really disturbed me when I saw this. Now, just stop and think. These little children, they're putting little suits, making them pretend like they're adults. these pictures must look incredibly strange to a non-Jehovah's Witness. Really, think about it. Little kids like that, they're trying to get children's attention to Bible stories that are far beyond their comprehension. These little guys can't comprehend all of the biblical stories that Watchtower is trying to indoctrinate them into. In fact, it's against their well-being and their mental health. These little guys have to be normal. They're going to play. They can't be dressed up in little suits and talking about how they put Jehovah first in their life. But just listen and let's move forward. Now, they use an example. Let me just tell you about the example. They use an example of two jars. Now, you'll see these jars. You can kind of see them there in the film. But they have two jars, and there's some big rocks, and there's some little pebbles. Now, the big rocks that they're going to put in the jar are spiritual activities. The little jar, the little pebbles, they represent all the little things in life that can take you away from spiritual activities. So let's let me go ahead here.
And they go with every talk that the videos are for.
Let's move it forward. Now you see the little jars. Let's move it forward here. But I'm going to give you the analogy here. We can't play the whole video. We don't have time.
Week in a Christian's life. The large rocks represent the most important things that we need to accomplish during the week. And all these little pebbles represent the non-essential things of life: recreation, playing games, playing sports, going on the internet, working with social media.
Well, see, these are things that little kids would like to do. I used to like to play sports. Now, I didn't have the internet back then, but little kids like to get on Facebook, and then they have their own little friends in there. So this governing body member here, he's suggesting to these little kids that the little pebbles in that jar represent all of the things that can distract you from learning about Jehovah and pleasing Jehovah. Friends, little children don't need this. This is going to make them twisted in their thinking. The Watchtower is taking them away from a normal life. Listen in.
Our hobbies, taking music lessons, they're all fun.
Well, what's the matter with a hobby? What's the matter with a music lesson? This is what kids like to do. They like to play. They like to do different things and learn. And here we have the Watchtower telling these little kids, no, don't do this. No, hobbies are bad. Hobbies are bad. Taking a musical instrument is bad. Playing sports is bad. You want to focus all on Jehovah. So put the big rocks in there. They represent spirituality. But all of these little rocks, all of these little pebbles, those are the things that will take you away.
Things to do, but really, they're not essential. Now, our challenge is to try to get all the big rocks into the...
All right, well,
enough. You can get in there.
Well, it goes on and on and on, but let me just...
Important thing. So, no, we can't...
Spill into there because, I mean, it's just... It's really... It's actually... It breaks my thoughts, my back, really, to watch this type of stuff because it's not sensible. They're doing things that little children are not supposed to be engaged in. It can hurt these little children as they grow older. Okay, let me go back to my stream here and talk a little bit more about this. Well, these young kids, these little boys have got to consider spiritual things first before hobbies, before playing games, before participating in sports. How are you going to grow up to be a sensible-minded person? And I got thinking, I have my own illustration as that brother, governing body member, was, I believe he was a governing body member. I'm not sure. He's an official of the Watchtower anyways. But all of those little pebbles, now the Watchtower was saying they are distractions. That's what's taking you away from Jehovah. But the way that I'm looking at it, I look at it differently. I see these little pebbles, they would represent the opportunities that these young little kids would have. And all those little things that we could have achieved in life, all of these little things that we could have had if we weren't connected with the Jehovah's Witnesses, those little pebbles could have really made our life a whole lot better when you stop and think about it. So that's how I look at it. But the brother here is looking at it, those pebbles are taking things away. So all of these little pebbles, in my way of thinking, will make many small memories, adding up to a lot of joy in life. I mean, all of the little memories in life, celebrating Christmas, celebrating the birthdays. Those two boys in that video, they couldn't do that. But stop and think about it. That is something that the Watchtower does to little children, and how bad that is. Those kids are going to grow up and have problems in their life, just like many listening into this program. So I wanted you to see that. I thought you might think that was fascinating. I thought it was. I thought it was unusual to see that. But anyways, I want to go on. We got more to talk about here on JW World News. This is the news the Watchtower doesn't want us talking about. And I just wanted to talk about something tonight that I'm sure will get your attention. It has to do with weird autoimmune disorders. And the religion keeps its members in a constant state of anxiety. So why wouldn't many Jehovah's Witnesses have a very strange disorder, whether it be fibromyalgia or some other crazy thing? The Jehovah's Witnesses actually create these disorders. Jehovah's Witnesses are always worrying about doing enough for Jehovah. Did you worry about that? Am I doing enough for Jehovah? Am I giving a good witness? Am I being exemplary? The end is near, and you know what that's all about. Well, we're going to make sure we're doing everything for Jehovah. The organization also encourages the people to put themselves in gratuitously stressful situations. Yes, and I'm going to emphasize that. This organization has put us into stressful situations. Trust in Jehovah. You don't have to get a good job. Take a stand for the truth by refusing to engage in normal social activities at work or in school. I mean, these are all things that slowed us down. These are all things that hurt us and cause many immune problems. People have suffered from all kinds of problems, all kinds of difficulties, autoimmune disorders in the Watchtower. Why wouldn't they? I mean, even if it was a matter of taking care of your health. Well, how can you take care of your health? Now, think about this. I got thinking about this week. How can you take care of your health when you can't rest on the weekends? You know, most of the world comes Saturday, comes Sunday, they can take a day off, they can enjoy it with their family, can lounge around a little bit. You can't do that as one of Jehovah's Witnesses. How could you take care of your health when they wanted you to be out in service on Saturday, get to the meetings on Sunday, go into service after the meeting? And they never took into consideration that this could actually be harmful to your health. Yes, this religion, Jehovah's Witnesses, plays a huge role in making people sick. Yes, I'll emphasize that. This organization, Jehovah's Witnesses, it plays a huge role in making people sick. Maybe you've been sick. Maybe you noticed in the past that when you were one of Jehovah's Witnesses, you were always sick. And now that you're out, you might feel a lot better. I mean, that's what I have people say to me. But you know, the strangest thing is a lot of women in the Jehovah's Witness organization in particular have strange autoimmune problems. They have difficulties with their autoimmune disorders. Many of them suffer so many things. I know I was in a congregation where there was a sister in particular. She could not even involve herself with sitting in the main auditorium because the smell of the carpet out there was getting to her. And you might have heard other stories like that. What do you think, King of Dots? Are we over the top on this or what?
Well, talk on because back around mid-'80s, I don't know if you remember Robert Hahn by any stretch. He was a circuit district overseer. We used to call him Attila the Hahn. Now, I didn't make that up, but very that way. Anyway, we went to the circuit assembly, and his wife has a huge crowd around her, and she's telling what her husband discovered. And it was that Jehovah's Witnesses as a social group had the highest incidence of cancer in the entire country. And so I'm listening to that, and then people are asking, why do you think that is? And she said, it's Satan, obviously. Now, I disagree with that. I didn't speak up because, you know what, sometimes I know when to shut up, you know. So it was well known back then in the mid-'80s that we have a disease problem, and it may be mental illness too. I hate to say that, but this is first-hand information. And of course, Robert Hahn, since you don't know him, I'll just tell you a little bit more. Ooh, gee. He was in the U.S. military. He personally told me this, and he was in charge of New York City's Union Station experiments, where the Army would count the turnstiles. They'd release germs, experimental germs, into the population. Then count the turnstiles to see what if the population decreased over the next few days or weeks. And he was a haberdasher, by the way. I don't know if people know what a haberdasher was. Someone who's very ridiculous, about they do the clothing thing, the clothing industry. And one more story about him. I'm trying to think. Oh yeah, he was involved in the Pennsylvania Dutch country conversions of all these dairy farmers, convinced them to sell their farms. Then they moved to Eastern Kentucky, where I ran into them because I was helping the special missionaries in Eastern Kentucky. And one of them was one of his Bible students. And I compared Robert Hahn's stories to what the direct person was, and found out that he was a stone cold liar. According to the overseer of our congregation in Eastern Kentucky, that Robert stretches the truth. So, you know, this is a part of the legacy of Watchtower. Who knows what's true? And then you go around telling these stories, and you're just helping, abetting the lying, you know? That's my story about Attila the Hun. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. Well, thank you, King of Knots. We enjoyed that story, so that was good. But, you know, all of us have experienced witnesses that have had these strange autoimmune disorders. And like I say, I can understand why it could happen. Now, I'm just going to bring up lighting. Now, they had fluorescent lights in most of the kingdom halls. I mean, I have no problem with fluorescent lights. But imagine spending an evening in a brightly lit room. It can foul up your sleep cycles. I mean, this is known. Go to a sleep doctor. He'll tell you to stay away from lights, bright lights. So you're sitting in a kingdom hall. You got these bright lights on you for several days a week, at least back then in the 80s and 90s. And then after the meeting, you have to drive late at home, having to drive further and further away to Kingdom Hall. This leads to sleep deprivation. So, you know, it's 9:30, 9:45, and I remember even me, I had to put the 5 kids in the car, take them home. By the time I got home, it was 10:30, you're dead tired. This can all lead to sleep deprivation. So people, no wonder why people have all kinds of disorders in the organization. Lack of sleep is an increased risk of the autoimmune disorders and a serious health problem. And also maintaining Jehovah's Witnesses, and I know that you'll all agree with me, when you're one of Jehovah's Witnesses, you maintain a heightened sense of flight or fight. Yeah, anxiety, stress, and fear, along with living with a misogynist and patriarchal system. So, I mean, even women had it worse in the Watchtower. That's probably why they suffer more from these autoimmune problems. So, all these things they attribute to a person having an autoimmune problem. The psychological effects are very, very real. Even PTSD, which is an extreme physiological symptom or psychological symptom, that is very difficult to handle and deal with. It's a disorder, and many, many witnesses suffer from that as well. So sisters suffer from fibromyalgia, migraines, sensitivities to fluorescent lights and smells of the carpet. I mean, it goes on and on and on. And many of the Jehovah's Witnesses had to say they wouldn't go to a regular doctor. No, they would go to some witch doctor rather than fact-based medicine. We all remember that, don't we? So I wanted to bring that up tonight. Dick, you listen in. What did you want to say?
Hi, Rick. This is Connie. I just wanted to add to that. You know, it's very interesting when we were witnesses, and I'm sure it's still the same way today. You know, it is high anxiety. It is high alert. Armageddon's just around the corner. And there's never a moment where you can just decompress from all of that anxiety. And our bodies are, you know, so beautifully designed, but it's mind, body, spirit. So whatever is going through your mind, your thoughts, your mindset, your attitude, that has a direct impact on your physical health. And the same is true with your physical health. If you're not doing very well physically, it's going to definitely create a lot of depression and so forth with your mind. So, I mean, mind, body, spirit, that's how God really created us. But you were talking about the fluorescent lights. I love nutrition. It's one of my passions. And the thing about the fluorescent light, Rick, is it depletes the body of vitamin B complex. Well, you say, well, what's the big deal about B complex? Well, B complex is critical for your mental health. A lot of times, we had a sister in our congregation. This might be an extreme case, but I'm just trying to prove the point. She was very suicidal, and she was only a few years younger than me. Her name was Nikki, and it was really sort of sad. Anyway, she went to the ER, and they were diagnosing her and so forth, and found out that she was completely depleted of the entire B complex vitamin. And B complex is for your mental health. A lot of times when people are very depressed, it's because they're depleted in the B complex family. And, you know, some witnesses are really into nutrition, some of them aren't, but, you know, the lifestyle of being a JW, you're like that little mouse on the wheel. You're just spinning. You're going 100 miles an hour, and it's never fast enough. It's never good enough. You know, they always expect more and more. And, you know, you keep that pace up year after year after year, it takes its toll on your body. I mean, just working 40, 50 hours a week and trying to take care of a family in itself is a lot. But then you're trying to, you know, do all the witness stuff, the meetings and everything else. It's exhausting. And there is no let up, Rick. It's just like what you said. Saturday morning, you can't sleep in. Sunday morning, you can't sleep in. There's no break. There's always 3 conventions a year. There's always something going on. The circuit overstairs in town, now we've got a special meeting. And people are totally exhausted and burnt out. I mean, even God said it's important to have a day of rest. So Watchtower seems to, you know, overlook that fact because it's always to the advantage of Watchtower and using everyone for the own personal gain. So, you know, I hope people do take care of themselves. You know, as you get older, Rick, as we know, your health is truly your wealth. If you've ever spent any time in an intensive care unit, which I've spent plenty of days and months in ICU with loved ones, you know, you sit there and you think, oh my God, you know, what is really important in life? And you can have all the money in the world, but if you don't have your health, your physical health or your mental health, you don't have very much. So I would like to just encourage people, don't take your health for granted. If you're having health issues, please take care of yourself because it's absolutely priceless. And unfortunately, this organization has no respect for people's lives and their health. So thank you, Rick.
Yeah, Rick, there's a medical term, a psychological term, that is applicable to a lot of Jehovah's Witnesses, and that's psychosomatic. What you think about affects how your whole body works, all the organs, how they function. If you're a happy-go-lucky person, you wear that on your face. You can tell somebody. But if you're a person that's worried about Armageddon, the Great Tribulation, whether or not you'll survive, if people are going to come after you and kill you, you're not going to be a happy person. And you're going to have fibromyalgia and all the things that go with it, anxiety and so forth. I went to I took a course in PTSD with the VA, and I had a guy sitting beside me, and he was a cook in the Army. He had never saw combat, never. He never killed anybody. He never shot a rifle. He was a cook. That's what he did. But he had a really, really bad case of PTSD because what he dwelled on. He just dwelled on maybe stepping on a bamboo viper, or he got sniped, by a sniper, or rockets and mortars would come into his position. He worried about it for 13 months. To such a degree, when he get out of the military, he couldn't do it. He couldn't function. So he and his family took him to the VA, and they worked with him for like 10 years. I took courses with him. But you don't necessarily have to see a traumatic event. It's all you have to do is dwell on it, think on it. And when you're a Jehovah's Witness, that's all you're getting. Armageddon. Every talk that I heard from 1970, 71 onward till 1975 is all about Armageddon, how traumatic it's going to be. It's going to be the Great Tribulation, anxiety, stress. Terrible stuff is going to happen to you. Well, Jehovah's Witnesses, it's in the back of their mind. They don't even know it sometimes. The back of their mind, in their subconscious, I could die soon. And if I don't obey every single law that Jehovah's Witnesses come up with, I'm going to be toast at Armageddon, and I'm going to suffer traumatically, and my children are going to suffer. This carries a state of anxiety like you wouldn't believe. Just a quick rundown on how PTSD works. You start off with hypervigilance, and that's what happens when you start learning about Armageddon. And that dwarfs into high stress, and that goes into anxiety. And, guys don't know how to handle it. I mean, big, tough Green Beret guys, they're out there drinking, they're smoking pot, they're beating on their wives and kids, they're drunk all the time. And a lot of Jehovah's Witnesses are closet alcoholics and pill pushers. And that's just how it works. And they don't even know it. And the Watchtower knows that that's what's happening, but they don't care. They want you coming to the hall. They want you donating. They want you to go to Quick Bills. They want you to build more Kingdom Halls so they can sell off them. They want you to build a Kingdom Hall, and they're going to sell off 3 of them. That's how they work this scam. Thanks, Rick.
Well, thank you, Dick, for bringing that up. Good commentary, good narrative. Thank you very much. We are coming down to the end of JW World News, but I wanted to play one more thing, and I caught this online on November 17th, 2023, just a month or so ago, not even a month. It was a morning worship talk by Anthony Griffin, Brother Griffin, and it was called The Refreshing Way Jehovah Deals with Us. Now, if you're familiar with the way it works at the world headquarters in Bethel homes around the world, the Bethel people come down for breakfast, and what it is a person official of the Watchtower gives the morning talk. It's a brief talk, but it's a morning worship talk, they call it. And this one really caught my attention because it's just over the top, because it's such a lie. The refreshing way Jehovah deals with us. I'm going to play the video for you. I want you to think about what's being said here. This is total foolishness. What they're saying Satan is doing You listen closely now. What the brother is saying Satan is doing to many witnesses is not the truth. It's the Watchtower doing this. So I'm going to play the video now. Let me do that. I got it right here. So let me get it and play it. Listen to this. I think you'll find it very
Strip them of
fast.
their dignity. He takes our loved ones away from us so that we feel lost and hopeless. And through sickness and old age and other unpleasant human experiences, he tries to make us feel worthless and unwanted. He wants to strip us of every ounce.
Well, hold on one second. I'm going to play it again for you. I want you to listen closely. Now, he's saying this is Satan that is doing this to you as a Jehovah's Witness. He's taking everything away from you. Well, that's exactly what the Watchtower is doing. These guys are sly and they're slick. Listen once again. This is crazy.
Strip them of their dignity. He takes our loved ones away from us so that we feel lost and hopeless. And through sickness and old age and other unpleasant human experiences, he tries to make us feel worthless and unwanted. He wants to strip us of every ounce.
Well, that's the Watchtower. They want to strip us of every ounce of joy or anything, but they're blaming it on Satan, the devil. I wanted to play that. I thought you found it. I thought you would probably find that quite fascinating. But anyways, we're coming to an end. We're coming to an end unless we do have 614. Did you want to say something, 614? Go ahead. You're on with us.
Yeah, Rich, this is Michael. How you doing?
I'm good.
You were talking about the 1975, and the main thing about the 1975 date was the way they figured the prophecy was wrong. As I told you before, and they knew it was wrong because I'm the person who told Fred France that the temple wasn't destroyed in 607. It was 587, and that was back in 1973. So he knew that at that time, and they just kept on going with the lie. I think they're still going with the lie to this day.
Yeah, they are, but they are starting to, at least we mentioned tonight in South Africa, they are starting to admit that the governing body got overexcited. They wanted Armageddon to come, so they kind of overly excitedly mentioned 1975. So people are catching up on these bums, Mike. They're catching up.
Yeah, and I was just wondering, do you think that Fred France, my impression, he didn't tell me he didn't believe it, but my impression was when I talked to him and showed him that the temple was destroyed in 587, my impression was that he really didn't believe in 1975, but he had to go along with the lie. That was my impression. Does Barbara Anderson know anything about that? Because I talked to another friend who was in Bethel at the time, and he said, "No, Fred France." He said, "I heard your radio show, Michael." He said, "Fred France really believed that it was 1975." Do you have any information otherwise?
Well, all I do have here is a clip from Fred France, saying that 1975 was it. So, but I don't know. I couldn't tell you that. I don't know. But when Barbara comes on Saturday night, she'll be on next Saturday night. If you're listening in, check in with her. Or I'll ask her when she comes on. Okay.
I appreciate it, Rick.
All right.
Thank you.
Well, Mike, always good to hear from you, Mike. Don't you be a stranger. Come back and see us soon. Thank you. 603. Come on, 603. You run with us.
Yeah, this is Tom. Rick. Now, you mentioned a few different things. One of them was about the sleep deprivation that people suffer. And just something that always bothered me. My children, when they were very young, they were expected to go to bed around 7 o'clock. That was their mother's chosen time. But on Tuesday night and Thursday night, they had to stay awake until 8 or 9 or 10. But then even on a weekend when there was some special show or movie that we wanted to watch, that the kids really wanted to watch, they weren't allowed to stay up past that.
bedtime. And it was just, it's just such a contradiction for the kids. And that's got to mess with their mind and their psyche. And then another one is that the need for recreation that was talked about. I remember many times they would mention on this podium when they had talks about that. They would say how important it is to have recreation. And that, they would admit it and they would say it, that it's important. But on the other side of their mouth, they would say, no, anything you do for recreation, they made you feel guilty. And basically it was like they had a list of approved recreation. You could go hiking or go to a park or whatever, but no, you cannot take your music lessons or, and stuff like that. It was, growing up, it was a very conflicting, difficult life living there, and then you would hear, on the podium or at assemblies, they would condemn gossiping, but at the same time, it's like, and all these adults that I know, that's what they do. That's all they do is they gossip. It's almost like they don't even hear it. It's like they're just saying it because they have to, but they do not. And it's very difficult for a child growing up in that organization to see the two sides, and that's definitely got to affect your psyche and your physical health, and that's all I need to say.
Well, you said a mouthful there, Tom. That's exactly true. I agree with you. Let's go to 302. Go ahead, 302.
Yes, hi Rick, this is Aaron. I've never called in before. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Thank you, Aaron, for coming in tonight. Appreciate it.
All right. Yeah, I heard what the new light that you had explained. I don't know, maybe about a half hour ago before you played that the video with the children, and I started thinking about this, and I thought of a video that I saw from JW Thoughts, Wally. I think you know him. And he was talking, the video title is that this new doctrine will change the religion forever. And it's from the 2023 annual meeting. And the way he showed the clip of Jeffrey Jackson talking, showing his timeline of, how they think things are going to go. And then the way Wally explained it was that if you're an inactive witness or a disfellowship witness or whatever, you could still have an opportunity to turn your life around, so to speak, before that final judgment. And I was thinking that this new light kind of seems to, I don't know, contradict the new light that you were talking about earlier. That I think maybe you said it came from the same annual meeting. I'm not sure. I just wonder if you could clarify those two things, or maybe I got something wrong.
Well, right. I mean, the new light, the new light has to. Well, there was a number of things that were released at the. I'm not sure I didn't see Wally's video, but basically the new light is that they're now suggesting they don't know who's coming back in the resurrection. Now, that is a ploy to get more people to be closer to Jehovah's organization. For them to come out and say that would move. And if I was still a witness and I heard that, I'd say, gee, I better really straighten out here, make my life a lot better. So that was one of the new lights I was talking about. Now you say Wally was talking about what? Go ahead and bring that up.
Well, it was in Jeffrey Jackson's talk, and there's a website that kind of summarizes it called avoidjw.org.
Oh yeah.
And then this clip, it says here, Jeffrey Jackson continues to talk on the future judgments on the Great Tribulation. And then it says, this is a quote, "Over the last few years, we've had a few changes regarding the Great Tribulation. Was that what we used to believe, or is this what we believe now?" And then it goes on to I guess he shows the animated description. And then it says 4 interesting questions. And this is a quote: "Once the Great Tribulation starts, is there a door of opportunity for non-believers to actually join us? What have we said in the past? No, there will not be another time." He goes into how Jesus never mentioned a door of opportunity closing. And another quote, what about unbelieving relatives, disfellowshipped ones? Could some of them, once they see the destruction of Babylon the Great, decide that what Jehovah's Witnesses are saying is correct? Could they take a stand of truth if they change their hearts? Would we be disappointed? We can't be dogmatic. It's that last minute repentance. As we look in the time chart, we see that this is the time period before the final judgment. We will still face the attack of Magog. Our preaching work is now of utmost importance. The answer, we will have to wait and see, but there is a possibility some can make a stand for the truth. So that's what that paragraph says.
Oh yeah, well that definitely was what the Watchtower is now believing, that even if you left the truth, so to speak, that even if you came right back right before Armageddon, that'd be all right. Now it's not that the Watchtower never said that could happen, but they insinuated that, you know, if you left the truth, that's it. But now they're leaving the door open. Now, why would you think they would leave that door open? I mean,
I wouldn't know.
Well, no, I know.
To get more people into the organization.
Well,
I would imagine.
Well,
so
what
make more money.
What it is an appeal. It's an appeal. So, in other words, people have left the organization, not necessarily hardcore apostate activists, but there's a lot of people that have left the Jehovah's Witness organization that became inactive. They didn't want to go anymore. So now they hear this from the governing body that, you know, you have an opportunity to come back before Armageddon. So some of these people, that the organization is relying on the fact that if you mention this, that's going to touch the hearts of some people. I have relatives that have become inactive for years. And now all of a sudden, if they hear just little inklings like, well, you can come back, that's okay, they will go back and feel not embarrassed about it. You follow me?
Yeah. So, and it seems like what Wally said, this essentially changes everything as far as people's mindset about wanting to stay in the organization, I guess, you know, because what would be the incentive to be a good little Jehovah's Witness, so to speak, now when the door of opportunity could still be open later? That's the way I saw the way Wally was describing it anyway.
Oh yeah, no, Wally's a good guy, and I know right, he was focusing on that. I was focusing on something else here, but they came up with a lot of new things at the governing body meeting. So, but yeah, no, that's a new way of thinking. Of course, the Watchtower is famous for this. They're famous for changing policies and changing their procedures, and it's very ambiguous at times. But you know, we try to keep up with it all, but sometimes it's hard to make sense out of nonsense. Well, thank you, brother.
Right.
Thank you for calling in for the first time. Larry, what do you want to say to the brother? Go ahead, Larry.
Well, I just want to make a comment. I think it was Dick Borghi's wife that was commenting about health, and it was brought up after that about sleep deprivation. And I remember there was some guru or some leader of making people feel good about themselves, and I forget his name was Timothy something, but anyway, they would go without sleep into the night, and then at the end of the night or early in the morning, they would walk on hot coals. Well, why didn't they do it at lunchtime? Because they wanted to get control of their minds. And so that's what a lot of these conventions and all these activities that the Watchtower has to keep people so busy that they're sleep deprived, and they don't have the relaxation, the recuperating time, and so that affects their minds, and it's easier to control people if you sleep deprive them and keep you so busy that you don't have time to think. You just become a robot.
Well, Larry, that's an excellent thought, and that's true. That's absolutely true. That's how they can control you, by keeping you sleepy and not awake. Good idea. Good thoughts. Good. Thank you. All right, let's go with 321. 321. You're on with us. Go ahead. 321.
Is this me?
That's you. You're on with us. Go ahead.
My name is Granville Richardson. I was a witness for 35 years. And it's a total sham, scam, thank you, ma'am, It's McDonald's. Nobody understands. This is McDonald's. McDonald's is a real estate empire that just happens to peddle burgers. Okay, and I'm sorry, Rick.
Yeah.
You are. First couple of times I listened to you, I'm like, I don't want to listen to this stuff because the bite mark is a horrible thing. It eats people. But the Watchtower steals people's time, steals people's money, steals people's families, and makes people into dope addicts, drunks, kills them, murder. People commit suicide over this. I've been to the Watchtower. I've worked as a temple slave, a temp, okay, down on 21 Columbia Heights. And I'm telling you, this is a real estate empire masquerading as a religion. And it kills people from opium. It's opium. I'm living here in Florida. My family hates me. I'm one step from being with Barbara Anderson. My kids, I taught them this stuff, and they're following it to the letter. What does it get me? Nothing, because that's what it is. It's a nothing. It's a big. And once people wake up, then they don't want to wake up. They go, oh, Rick. Once again, I'm sorry. I love you, man. You spent all of this time, all of this effort, all of this money. People have no idea the sacrifices you've made and your family had made to make this happen. And it's a horrible, horrible thing, but really religion is all a sham, all of it. I would love to say God is going to come and save us, Jehovah, Yahweh, whoever you want to call him. I got to tell you, I love your show. I love the input because people need to understand. I've lost my whole family. Everything that I was near and dear to my whole heart is gone. Gone. Out the window. Watchtower slave 40 years? That's just one story. I just missed all those stories and said, no, this is the truth. No, there is no truth shining over there, okay? It's a real estate empire. And it's like all other religions. They're either real estate empires or pedophile empires, or one and the same. And, it fits the narrative. Israel. Israel's going to die now, just like they planned. Who planned it? Well, Rothschild planned it in 1947. So do you think this is some Bible prophecy? I'm sorry. Excuse me here. I'm the biggest rube in the world. I mean, I know nothing about nothing, but I know one thing. Everything that they're pushing in our face now, and all the fear, because it's all fear. And like I said, look, I think the world of you, brother. I mean, I have the most admiration for you. A guy could put up with just talking to people and listening to their stories and wah, shit. All these years. No, hey, it's what it is. I mean, honestly, it's damn. I mean, you go, you got an axe to grind. No, there's no axe to grind. Just give it up. Do not spend one more minute thinking about the Watchtower. And I know that's kind of going negative to your end of it because, let's say, I mean, I was there. Here's the thing. I worked as a temp. I'm there at the Watchtower. I'm naked with a bunch of guys taking a shower. Okay? I'm naked with a bunch of guys taking a shower. Okay? Noah's family saw him naked. And they want to tell you, oh, nakedness is a bad deal. We were born naked, right? So, let's just start from the beginning of the lie. If the devil was here in the beginning, Adam and Eve, Adam and Steve, Adam and whoever you want to take out, they want to tell you about the cave of treasures when they kicked them out. All these other stories. And I do believe that the Nephilim are here. And I do believe that there is something.
Well, no, I wish we could spend some more time on this, but we're up against a time restraint here, brother. But,
I'm sorry. Thank you.
But no,
thank you.
really,
Thank you so much.
I really appreciate you coming in, but we are up against a time restraint. And we should call in a little earlier because I'd love to hear what you had to say. But thank you for coming and being with us. Thank you. All right. Is that it?
You're great.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I really, really do. I appreciate it. Well, anyway, we're going to be going to another program here coming up on the 6 screens. The program is Awakening After the Watchtower. And we got a man coming in from Tennessee, originally from Rhode Island. And I don't know if we got a sidekick coming on tonight or not. But any final comments here before we go? Dick, you have something to say? Go ahead.
Yeah, I would. It was mentioned that Satan will take your dignity away. Well, Satan is the watchtower because the watchtower lies. The father lie is Satan, the devil. Try sitting in the Kingdom Hall with a 10 and 7-year-old son and have them announce from the platform that Brother Boyd is now disfellowshipped, and have your 2 boys burst into tears and half the congregation turn around and stare at me. Talk about losing dignity. It's not, well, Satan is Jehovah's Witnesses. And it's just a horrible thing to be disfellowshipped. And it absolutely puts a big chasm between me and my boys. It's a cult and it's dangerous. Thank you.
Well, it's very dangerous. Well, thank you, Dick, and thank you everyone for coming in. But I just want to say, no one said the secret word tonight. Yeah, we were going to give $20 away, but nobody said the secret word. And the secret word tonight was liaison committee. Liaison committee. Of course, that's the brothers that would go in and talk you out of taking a blood transfusion. But nobody said that. But maybe next week we can have that duck come down and give the person the secret word if they get it next week on our 6 screens broadcast. Now, look, if you like what you've heard here tonight in real time, and what you can do for us is, why don't you like us on Facebook? Why don't you share us on Facebook? Or at least even make a comment to the effect that you want to become a subscriber to our YouTube channel, and that'll be great. I really would appreciate that, and we can get the word out to more and more Jehovah's Witnesses all over the world what goes on behind the curtains of the Watchtower. Now, tomorrow we have 6 screens Sunday. Now, we don't get a whole lot of people in on Sunday. We get into the theological teachings. Well, we get to show you how wrong and in error the Watchtower is when it comes to their Bible explanations, their scriptural explanations. So why don't you join us tomorrow? We have some great programs coming up tomorrow, beginning at 1 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Knowing God After the Watchtower will be coming on. And then at 2 o'clock, we have a program that gives Jehovah's Witnesses, ex-Jehovah's Witnesses, an opportunity to speak up and talk and tell us about their trek in the Watchtower. And then at 3 o'clock, we do the Sunday edition of JW World News. And you don't want to miss the Sunday program, The Christian Court. Now, in the Christian Court, there's a lot of things. Many Christians have peculiar questions. They're not salvation points, but, what should I do? Can I smoke a cigarette? Can I gamble? Quick questions like that we bring up on the Christian Court. So that will be tomorrow at 4 o'clock. And then at 5 o'clock tomorrow afternoon, we have a man that was associated with the Watchtower Writing Department. His name is Jay Hess, and he's coming on to answer your Bible questions. That's at 5 o'clock tomorrow on our 6 screen Sunday program. So we're looking forward to that. All right, so it looks like we're going to end the stream here. I want to thank everyone for coming in, especially those people that call in. You guys make the program. That's what people love to hear when people call in real time. So thank you for doing that. And I just want to say, I want you guys to keep standing tall. Don't you ever give in, up or out. Keep exposing the Watchtower organization. And may I say, the last one leaving the Watchtower, please turn off the new light. Okay, we got a new program coming up right next here on the network. Stay with us. Don't go anywhere. Eric will be up next.